And Mark Carney has a cutout campaign. It's inflated by media. There's some good memes I'll show you about what Carney actually is. And it's interesting. Some people think that he's using AI pictures for his media in order to bolster his crowds, make things look more enthusiastic than they really are. So I don't know. Maybe I'll show you all of that. Flag Day. Give me a break, please give me a break. And I think that it is interesting that they're trying to, well, apparently this is a talking point that China's pushing. And so, of course, everybody and their dog are pushing it. I'm also going to show you some similarities between Polyev and the liberals and everybody else who's talking about leadership, Carney, all the rest. So it's interesting because while we have the illusion of choice, we don't actually have a choice. And that's unfortunate. It's really, really very annoying. Somebody asked me the other day, where can I look at Global Affairs Canada and what they're spending? And there's a search engine, and I'll show you the search engine. I'll give you a link. It's, I guess, middle of the show. I was intending to include it in the main show today, so it should be in the main show. So it's Global Affairs Canada provides a search engine, and you can search operational projects, and you can search projects that are closed and all sorts of in between. And it's incredible how much money we're just shoveling out the door with absolutely no accountability. I'll show it to you. We'll walk through a couple of examples just from what I was looking at this morning. Jagmeet Singh is blaming the Liberals for how bad things are, which is kind of funny coming from him. And so there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. We have to start at Valentine's Day because yesterday was Valentine's Day and Donald Trump is hilarious. So Donald Trump's White House, this is real. This is 100% real. The golden age, the White House description says the golden age of America begins right now. I'm glad that's fun. Anyway, here is a Valentine put up by the White House official Twitter X account. And it says, roses are red, violets are blue. Come here illegally and we'll deport you. And that's Homan and Donald Trump. And I think that's Trump's mugshot picture. So what a great Valentine, eh? It's very interesting. It's pretty funny. Here's the Liberal Party putting out Valentines. I think it's kind of childish. And Pierre Poilievre put out a picture with his wife saying, how much I love my wife and kids type deal. And like, it's supposed to be wholesome and familial, but I thought, man, like it seems like a distraction. Have you not noticed what's going on? Like, that's not the story, buddy. Like, you're going to get a lot more traction if you start posting things that people care about. Anyway, here's the Liberal Party, and they're putting out Valentines. And I think this is less fun than Donald Trump's Valentine, but it's roses are red, violets are blue. My cuts would hurt Canadians just like you. That's Pierre Poilievre back in the glasses. And liberals are red, conservatives are blue, but only one of them cares about you. Oh my gosh. Sorry. I didn't realize how vomit-inducing that was. I know it's early in the morning. I apologize. Here's Dr. Virginia Johnson, and she says, roses are red, violets are blue. The Emergencies Act is what Team Canada did to you. Keep that in mind for the next series of tabs. So I hope you had a good Valentine's Day. I hope it was robust and you did some fun things. I got to do some fun things. It was a lot of fun. We went to a Storm game last night, so it was good. But moving on, here is Flag Day. And again, Team Canada is now enrobing themselves in the Canadian flag because their Chinese overlords told them to. Sam Cooper is responding to Bob Mackin, and Bob says the Canadian Alliance of Chinese Associations, closely aligned with the People's Republic of China consulate, jumps on the Buy Canadian bandwagon for a Dawa News photo op, but it doesn't hide the PRC flags. So there you go. Buy Canadian, everybody. Very, very Canadian. Super duper Buy Canadian. And so, I mean, like, that's interesting, right? The lining up of the messaging, very, very odd. Sam Cooper says, important to note, controlling level CCP influence arm in Western Canada is promoting the same fake nationalism as Liberal Party leaders that are funded by this group, which includes underground finance, National Division RCMP suspects, and CCP police station suspects. Wake up, Canada, says Sam Cooper. So that's interesting. Melissa says, and why is it fake nationalism? Well, not very long ago in my hometown of Guelph, CTV News is reporting Canada Day fireworks display canceled in Guelph. And you could say, because what happened was the Rotary guys are usually the ones who did it, and they ran out of volunteers, but it was announced in such a way that we could not fix it. There wasn't time. The city couldn't step in. The city says, you didn't leave us enough time to fix this problem, so darn, we we can't put anything together. There's no time. And even though I thought there probably was time, there was 6 weeks, and you could get somebody to do it, right? They've got money for migrants, endless money for migrants. You can't put together a fireworks display in 6 weeks? Like, what? Are you kidding me? Seriously? The Leslie Nopes of the world are cringing, right? Like, it's unbelievable, because people love organizing things. Go to the fireworks store, right? Like, call the Rotary guys and say, who are your suppliers? Can we use your model? Like, there are ways to solve the problem, but they didn't solve the problem. They wanted to cancel Canada Day. So why fake nationalism? Because they canceled Canada Day gleefully on June 10th, 2024, right? 6 weeks before they were supposed to do fireworks. Melissa says, there you go. Canada Day fireworks are starting to be canceled. More to come, I'm sure. And her prediction was correct. Oh no, a decades-old Canada Day event in Montreal has been canceled. So Canada Day parade will not happen in Montreal this year. Shocking. I was shocked. I was shocked when that happened, right? And now Patrick Brown says, today on National Flag Day of Canada, we celebrate 60 years of the Canadian flag and reflect on the values it represents: democracy, freedom, and equity. Values that unite us all. Please join myself, members of Brampton City Council, and local MPs Sonia Liberal, and today for community flag raising, and celebrate the flag that has been a symbol of pride, unity, and strength for all Canadians. Asterisks. Forget about that whole 2022 to 2024 thing, right? Like, what? Are we supposed to just pretend none of that happened? We love the flag all of a sudden. It's definitely not things that Nazi truckers use. What? Like, come on. Pierre Poilievre says the same thing. This Saturday marks 60 years of our beautiful Canadian flag. I encourage all Canadians to put our Canadian pride on full display and send the message that Canada will always be proud, sovereign, and self-reliant, and a self-reliant country. I know people who had their cars vandalized because they had a Canadian flag. Like, you know, when you drive around and say it's like a Canada's in some international hockey tournament or something. We are right now, by the way. And you have a Canadian flag on your car like that, right? And you've seen the Maple Leaf ones. You've seen the Green Bay Packers ones, I'm sure, right? She just had one of those on the back window, and somebody broke the flag and like damaged her car. I think it was a taillight or something like that. They broke the taillight. And so I thought, man, like, that's pretty crazy. They created a situation using the media that enraged people and emboldened them to attack people's cars who were showing their patriotism, like Patrick Brown is encouraging now. So isn't that weird, right? Blonde Finn says, funny, this donkey wasn't interested in participating in Canada Day, yet he's puking out pretend patriotism. And everybody can see through it. It seems like they're saying, oh, hello, fellow Canadian, you know, and they've got their little, I actually have one. I've got their little Canadian flag, you know, hi, right? Don't you like my red and what's the other color? Oh, right, white, right? Like, it seems very fake, and we can see through it right away. It's not like a trans woman, right? It's like, hey, buddy, ma'am, no, like, that's not patriotism. You're faking it, right? Just like your friend there. Blacklock's reporter says, Canada Day evolving, says, oh, this can't go on YouTube anymore, right? Like, he made a trans man joke. Oh no. Still, to my knowledge, the best joke about that is in the beginning of Crocodile Dundee, where Crocodile Dundee is being picked up by the transvestite, right? And the whole bar knows. Still the best joke. It's hilarious. Okay. And I was like 10. I was 10 years old watching that movie, and I thought it was hilarious then too. Okay. Blacklock's reporter says, Canada Day's evolving, says Canadian Heritage, cites with approval of the cancellation of the traditional July 1st activities to reflect the history of colonialism in Canada. This is back on, this is yesterday, February 14th, 2025. So they're even right up to yesterday. They're like, yeah, we hate the Canadian flag. It's evolving, right? So David says, you canceled Canada Day celebrations. You canceled Sir John A. Macdonald. You canceled Don Cherry. You called us settlers. You made it near impossible to develop Canadian resources and industry. You made us a weakling among nations. And now we're supposed to believe you love Canada? I heard another lever Trump was considering doing was kicking Canada out of the G7, because technically we're no longer in even the G10. I think Italy's got a bigger economy than we do. And I think that Italy is actually, maybe Italy's already in the G7. There's another country that I was surprised had a bigger economy because of the geographical size of their country. I think it's Italy, but I could be wrong. And monetarily, they're doing better than us, but they're not in the G7 and we are. And somebody was talking about that, and I thought, oh man, that's That's an angle I hadn't considered. Anyway, we're supposed to believe you love Canada. You've done everything to destroy Canada, right? Like, why would we think that you like it? It's weird. Jagmeet Singh says, Canadians are kind, but we're pissed off, he says. New Democrats will make it easier to buy Canadian and boycott American. I don't know why it seems fake coming from him. I can't put my finger on it. I just don't know why. Gunger or Nicole? I'm not sure how to say. Oh, Nicole from BC says, Team Canada is a mental disorder. Freya, she's quoting Freya here. Saturday, February 15th is Flag Day in Canada, and the Canadian flag is 60 years old. Time for Team Canada to reclaim our beautiful flag from the traitorous Trump-worshipping Maple MAGA freedomers. So, just in case you thought Sexy Lee had been removed from the conversation. There she is again. Mike says, wow, the Economist supports Canadian membership in the EU. Let's do it. So among all of this, one of the biggest proposals is to diversify our products and like sell to foreign countries. But nobody wants to build pipelines to Tidewater. Not Quebec, not anybody else really, right? Nobody wants to build pipelines for Alberta. Nobody wants to do anything. But they want to join the EU. And I think that that's really weird. Like, it's a strange thing. And this guy highlights it for me, but I'll explain what's going on. Mike says, wow, the Economist supports Canadian membership in the EU. So the Economist says, why Canada should join the EU. So who's paying for that, right? Some Global Affairs Canada something. Or maybe the Economist has a direct partnership with the government of Canada where they print whatever the government of Canada wants them to print. Whatever, right? And this guy says, so you guys are fine with annexation, just not with annexation with a country that shares like 90% of our culture. Are you retarded? He was even more colorful. But anyway, very interesting stuff going on there, right? So it is interesting. Flag Day, fake Flag Day. I think that's more accurate. Or fake flag day patriotism, and we can see through it. And that's the problem. It's that actually they hate the country. They don't really like the country. They hate us, and they want us to be on board to allow them to continue stealing from us, I think. Right, Blend, let's talk about prorogation very quickly. The 13th and the 14th have happened. Everybody's presented their arguments. A lot of people were there watching. I'm just waiting for the outcome at this point in time. And my goodness, I've been busy, right? And yesterday I was so busy and I thought I was behind. And so I was adding a whole bunch of tabs that are interesting, right? That are good tabs. But I thought I didn't have enough. And it turns out I have way more than I need. Anyway, regardless. Right Blend is talking about the prorogation. I don't think there's an actual decision yet. So that's another weird thing. Oh yeah, no, we've got weeks and weeks and weeks. We'll tell you when we know. Okay, so you don't call us, we'll call you. I've heard that before, right? Right Blend says, the government has no less than 5 lawyers. The applicants have 3 lawyers robed up and ready to go. On the government side of the room, there are 3 additional people in nice suits with notepads who may or may not be government counsel. So everybody's stacked up to the gills with arguments. I don't think the arguments that they've made are very good arguments. Here's Sheila Gunn Reid. So she says, the AG says there's no evidence that there's something pressing that Parliament has to deal with. Well, I don't think that's accurate. I think Donald Trump is pressing. I think Donald Trump is using everything he can to press, and everything the Liberals don't do adds to his ability to maneuver and adds to his leverage. I think it looks that way to me. So, and there's been a bunch of other things that have been argued by the government that I don't think are very good arguments, but I don't want to fall down the rabbit hole of, I think it's going to go this way or that way. It doesn't really matter what I think. I think the judicial system and the whole justice institution is corrupt completely, and they're going to do what they're told to do by the Liberals. If the Liberals think they can hold out until March, then the prorogue will be lifted. They'll go back. Jagmeet Singh will help them pass some nonsense to fund whatever border initiatives they're going to fund. And then maybe we go to an election in March, but maybe not. But there's all sorts of things that are question marks. But I don't think that the Liberals are going to lose control at this point in time, right? Like, we've gone this far, and they've had control of the courts up till now as well, right? Here's Mark Carney. We're going to talk about leadership very quickly. CBC Watcher says, at the end of his answer, Carney unenthusiastically adds this point on his own. Maybe I'll say one thing, which is, I have many ties in this country. Many, many ties. He doesn't sound all that convinced himself of his own ties to Canada. So here's Carney talking about his many ties to the country. Here we go.
In the location that's appropriate, where appropriate, I have ties. Maybe I'll just say one more thing, which is I have many ties in this country. I grew up in Alberta. I was born in the north. My parents are from British Columbia. My family, a good part of my family lives there. I lived in Toronto. I live in Ottawa. I have many ties, and obviously I would be a local MP, but also my intention is to win this leadership, to become Prime Minister, and to represent all Canadians. Thank you very much.
Many ties, super duper ties, lots and lots of ties. He just hasn't lived in Canada for 10 years until he decided he was going to come back. And that's kind of reminiscent of Ignatieff, who parachuted in and everybody called him an American, right? And Andrew Scheer, who had dual citizenship, who still has dual citizenship, and Canadian media wanted him to renounce the dual citizenship in order to retain leadership of the Conservative Party. And then he was no longer leader of the Conservative Party, but not because of the dual citizenship thing. It was just one of the things, I think. Liberal media puts this out, and it's free media in Quebec. I'm not saying it right. Libra media puts this out, and it's good. It's got Mark Carney being inflated, and it's one of those crazy inflatable arm waving around things. And it's Mark Carney, right? And it says the media is inflating Mark Carney's. Yeah, it doesn't say anything other than I thought it was going to explain the meme, but yeah, Mark Carney's whole campaign is inflated by a media machine, and that's it. And it's accurate. It's true. Here is Brian Lilly. He says something. All his rallies are just filled with old white people. I seem to recall that being a criticism in a different leadership campaign that wasn't supported by Canada's establishment media. I'm not hearing it here. And the thing that I'm getting about this is is this an AI image or is this real? I can't tell. There are people who have circled things and said this woman has the same face, but I don't know if that was this image or if this was another image. But does this look like AI to you? Or is this a real image that just has weird kind of grainy overexposure and weird lighting? I don't know, because it's one of those ballrooms and they all kind of look yellow. And I mean, it's Mark Carney, so his teeth look yellow. So I'm just kidding. That was shoehorned in there. I apologize. Here is Michael Barrett. He says, why aren't the media asking Carney about this? Conflict of interest. Carney must come clean about the corporate profits he pocketed while he was the senior advisor to the NDP Liberal government for 5 years. It's time for accountability. Here's Michael Barrett talking about this.
Carney's failure to provide any transparency to Canadians about his financial interests for half a decade while he's been advising the Carney-Trudeau Liberal government. And there have been if only few questions from the media about how much his megacorp profited while he was advising the government. And this is incredibly important to Canadians after we've had 9 years of a government run by serial ethical lawbreakers from the Prime Minister through his front bench, including ministers who are reoffering and supporting carbon tax Carney in his bid to run the Liberal Party and to be Prime Minister of Canada. It's unbelievable that this guy has provided no transparency whatsoever about what his financial interests are. So Canadians are wondering this. We've been demanding answers, but there hasn't been a lot of ink spilled on it, and certainly Mark Carney's been in witness protection and hasn't answered a whole lot of questions. So we're going to keep asking those questions. We look forward to seeing and reading the questions that you've put to Carbon Tax Carney about his profits that he's cashed in while advising the NDP Liberal government. Carbon tax.
So there you go. How much has he made? Will we ever know? Probably not. So very interesting. Here's Alan, and he's responding to Mark Carney. Mark Carney says, no one who says Canada is broken will ever put Canada first. And Alan says, I think it's funny because Alan's got a Ukrainian flag and an Israeli flag in his profile picture. So right away, I mistrust what Alan has to say. However, this response is all right. He says, BS. You have to recognize and acknowledge the problem before you can fix it. I don't believe, not for a moment, Mr. Carney, that from your privileged perch you can actually see it. Not for a minute. So it's interesting. It's 28 seconds. I'm not interested in watching the Pierre Poilievre attack ad that finishes with Donald Trump. Everybody and their dog is trying, and I'm going to show you here, everybody and their dog is trying to frame their opponent like they're Donald Trump. And nobody's standing up and saying, we'd really like a full audit like Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing with Doge. We'd really like that. Everybody's talking about spending more money. I'll show you. Pierre Poilievre is talking about gaining control of this and, trimming this spending and that spending. I don't want to trim spending. I don't want people to say I'm going to remove the DEI stuff. It's a good start, but I want them to expose all of the spending and have the citizens enthusiastically cheer when all of the waste is cut, because maybe what Poilievre thinks is DEI spending is actually, or what Poilievre deems DEI spending is not the full encapsulation of it. He's probably going to leave supply management. I'd love to be wrong about that. I hope I'm wrong about that, but who knows? Let's talk about the election. This is a Power and Politics interview talking about the response to all of the polls now showing Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre are in a very much tightening race. Now, it's tighter than with the Liberals under Trudeau, because under Trudeau, they were down to something like 16 seats, which is crazy. And now they're rebounding a bit. I've seen them back up to around 100 seats. That's still not putting them anywhere close to majority territory or even minority territory, but it's a sight better than where they have been, almost unbelievably better from where they have been. And I haven't heard anybody who's said to me, that Mark Carney sounds good. Nobody said that. Everybody has said, oh yeah, he seems like as much of a snake as the rest of them, right? And they all seem like snakes. Anyway, here's this guy, Cullen, and they're talking about the change in the polls, but they're not seeing that actually in reality either. Here we go.
You say volatility. You also wrote online yesterday, we do not see a competitive political environment. So help me understand how those two things coexist.
Yeah, I don't think we see it yet, right? Because we still have the Conservatives ahead by 19 points in our polls. And now I admit we are one of the few who see such a large lead. But I'm not seeing underneath that top line number a lot of migration away from the Conservatives back to the Liberals or back to the New Democrats. They're still holding almost all of their previous support, and they're still taking a sizable chunk of past Liberal and New Democrat voters into their wings. Now, that doesn't mean those folks are going to stay there, but I do think that nothing has yet moved them away from it, and so that's why I still don't think it's competitive. The advantages are still with the Conservatives. They have more money. They have a better organization. Their leader is still the most popular. He's still more popular than Mark Carney is when you ask people, do you have a favorable impression of them? But I think, maybe 2 months ago they could have taken that for granted. I don't think they can anymore, because so many more of those Conservative supporters now are even saying, look, I might be open to voting Liberal in a way they weren't before.
You say
So I believe him up until he says that. I don't think there's any Conservative supporters that are thinking to themselves, that Mark Carney looks good. Nope, sorry, man. It's not happening. So what I was talking about 10 seconds ago is saying that everybody's trying to frame their opponent as Donald Trump. Here are the Conservatives trying to frame Mark Carney as Donald Trump. No. Yes. The conservative BUAC says the conservative strategy is to make Trump the enemy and for us to believe that Carney is in cahoots with him. So this is going to be the best campaign to eliminate their conservative base. 78 million people voted for Trump in the United States. Trump created Doge, which is exposing all of the money laundering in the United States. Why don't conservatives push for a Doge here instead? Should be easy with 10 years of Trudeau. Rather, they attack Trump because Canada is fake and in turn lost my support with their low IQ games. So this is the Conservative Party ad trying to tie Trump with Carney, I guess. Here we go.
Trump wants our jobs.
We're going to take other countries' jobs.
And Mark Carney is just the man to help him. Trudeau and Carney sold out Canada with job-killing taxes that push jobs south. He opposed Canadian pipelines while profiting off U.S. coal. Carney even moved his company's headquarters to New York, just as Trump wanted.
You're sneaky.
Carbon tax Carney. If Carney wins, Canada loses.
The teeth even look yellow with the red overlay. It's unbelievable. It's terrible. That's terrible, isn't it? That's really, really bad. Can you believe that? I can't believe that that's even a Conservative ad. I'm shocked. I'm genuinely shocked because it's a bad ad. That's the direction they're going to go? That's not going to fly. That's not going to fly at all. Holy smoke. I hope Bernier is ready to accept some people who are ready for politicians to talk some sense. Jagmeet Singh says, if Donald Trump attacks steel workers in Canada, there will be hell to pay. The NDP won't hold back. We'll stand up for steel workers. Our plan starts with dollar for dollar retaliatory tariffs and immediate support for every worker impacted. Isn't it weird? I think it's so weird that the NDP is not interested at all in investigating the waste that's happening in our country, like the economic destruction, the unbelievable things that are being found by Doge in the United States. And if you're a thinking person, you think to yourself, I wonder if anybody's taken advantage of Canadians like that. And then you think to yourself, the whole Arrive scam, scandal, and all the rest of it, and extrapolate out and think maybe it's worse than all of that even. Maybe it's worse than what's been exposed. And I'll tell you it is. But instead, Jagmeet Singh wants to make Donald Trump the bad guy. Isn't that wild? Why is that? Why is that the accepted narrative? Because it's wrong. It's incorrect, right? Like, holy smoke. The Jennifer O'Connell, the Liberals are so convinced they're going to win that all of the main top Liberals are quitting en masse, day after day. More keep dropping. Jennifer O'Connell, this is boohoo, get over it, is leaving. And she says, please read my statement about my future in the next federal election. And Marty up north says, good riddance. And Blue Ghost says, how many is that now? I've lost count. Raven says, as of February 25, 50 current Canadian Liberal MPs have announced they're out. That's 1/3 of the caucus. 108 are projected to lose their seat, including Jen and her dim-witted buddy, Mark Gerritsen. So that's interesting, right? Canada Post says, Mark Carney may call an election early, pledges to balance spending within 3 years. The elections are rigged. The only way Mark Carney wins, even retains the official opposition position, is by having a rigged election. And if Mark Carney is the official opposition and not Maxime Bernier, for example, then the direction of the House of Commons goes in one way, not the other, because Mark Carney is going to push Pierre Poilievre on his anti-Trump stance if he's the official opposition leader, right? So it's not good. Early election, I don't understand how he thinks that he's got any chance at all. Look at his teeth, for crying out loud. Holy cow. Here's Jagmeet Singh, NDP leader, according to Juno News, formerly True North. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, our understanding is Mark Carney is going to call an early election, so we're preparing for that. So everybody, all the rumors are pointing to early election. So are you surprised? I'm not all that surprised. Here is, we've got to talk about money and inflation in Canada. We've still got to talk about tariffs briefly, but Trump's kind of laid down the law at this point in time. Now it's waiting for everybody else to catch up. Anyway, here's talking about the inflation in Canada and money being worthless and getting more worthless. Here is Christy. She says they have Canadians hating Donald Trump when this is happening in Canada all the time. We need to work on our own corrupt country. How is this legal? So they put on a price tag that says, oh, look, it's marked down from $5.79 to $5.49. You're getting a deal, right? But when they take off the tag, it's actually $4.79. So that's not good. Here's another one. That's chocolate chips. Chocolate chips used to be $2.99. They were $4.99. Now they're $5.49. Same thing here, right? $4.79 for the non-semi-sweet ones, for the real chocolate, like the milk chocolate ones. So there's apparently chocolate is spiking, and the powers that be will do this. They'll spike commodities just to cause ripples and bubbles and create uncertainty in pricing and things like that. And I think they do it just to mess with us, but they may be committing, or they may be doing psychological experiments to see how we'll react. Here is the food professor. He says, today marks the end of the GST holiday. Should we eliminate the GST on food permanently? 62.3% said yes at grocery stores and restaurants. And I meant to vote on that one, but I didn't. I misclicked. My fat fingers. Anyway, regardless, yes to grocery stores was next. So 90% of people think that we should probably reduce or eliminate taxes completely on grocery store food and restaurant food. And yeah, we should not have any taxes on any inputs. Food is an input. Energy is an input, period. That's period. Like, there should be no taxes on those things. Mark says, breaking, Canada kills its own energy future. Stephen Gelbo kills an $11 billion Kitimat refinery project backed by Stockwell Day. While the U.S. has no federal carbon tax and is ramping up production, Trudeau and Guilbeault just terminated an $11 billion oil refinery. We have MPs who are sitting at the behest of foreign governments. The government has passed laws, C-69 and other laws, and now Guilbeault's done this, to prevent us from being able to develop our natural resources. Nobody does, sabotage does that, right? Like, you can't sabotage better than that, better than derailing a rich oil producing country's production of oil, okay? So that's what they're doing. And they're now moving to create censorship laws to deal with people like me who explain what they're doing. So that's something to pay attention to. Michael Barrett says, another day, another liberal contracting scandal, $1.6 million in questionable billing from an IT subcontractor and company. ArriveCan was just the tip of the iceberg. Canadians deserve accountability, not endless waste. Conservatives will clean up this mess. Will you? I don't know about that. I'm not convinced. David says banks halt the sale of silver bars amid soaring demand. There are people in the Canada Poly chat who are watching the price of silver, so I wanted to mention that. Doge has saved $100 trillion. Is that right? Or is that 100 billion? 9 zeros is a billion. $100 billion. So not quite a trillion yet. 1/10 of $1 trillion. We're almost there, right? 3.5 weeks. $97 million. No, I'm getting that wrong. I'm getting it all wrong, but regardless, there is a lot of money being taken out by Doge, and that's interesting. Somebody asked me, hey man, how do you find all of the spending for Global Affairs Canada? And I said, here. And I thought maybe you would be interested in that too. So here's the project browser. So they have a data set. The data set is just a database. And then they provide a project browser to search that database. Okay, so the database is separate. You can download the data itself independently if you want to, or go to the project browser here. And then if you go into the project browser, and I just type China and operational, right? And you can select dates. You can select the dates that you want it to return. You can select the monetary amounts you want, anything like that. So I just selected China and operational, and this is what came up. This one was Canada funding for local initiatives, Beijing 2015 to 2016. It's given $302,000, and I don't know if that's yearly or total. And the end date is 2016, right? 2015 and 2016. But I don't know why it's still operational. Is this yearly and this is still going? I don't understand, right? And this one's $770,000 for Canada Fund for Local Initiatives, 23 to 24, and it's still operational. And the end date is, I thought it was 31, but it's not. It's 24. So. But it's still operational, right? So it should be done, but it's still operational. So I don't understand if this is year over year, if it just hasn't been closed out yet. And if it hasn't been closed out yet, this one finished in 2016. So why hasn't this one been closed out yet? What's going on? And what do these even cover? So like I clicked into one of them. This is the $302,000 one. And it says country, 100% spent in China. Sector, other multi-sector aid. Policy marker, gender equality, environmental sustainability, participatory development and good governance, not targeted, trade development, not targeted, biodiversity, climate change mitigation, climate change adaptation, urban issues, desertification, children's issues, youth issues, disaster risk reduction, disability, indigenous issues, nutrition, ICT as a tool for development. So like this is a bunch of bullshit. Like what they're doing is a bunch of bullshit. Expected result, the Canadian Fund for Local Initiatives contributes to poverty reduction through small projects implemented primarily by local organizations that offer local populations direct social, economic, or technical assistance in China by focusing on results related to inclusive governance, LGBTQ2 democracy, human rights, rule of law, gender equality, empowerment of women and girls, peace and security, and women's economic rights. CFLI projects also support Canada's foreign policy priorities. Results achieved, nothing. NA. Okay. Weird. And you can scrub through the years. So like the first year, $300,000 was given. And then 2017, 18, it looks like nothing was given. But why is it still operational? Questions abound, right? And there are other ones too. This one is, this is the $770,000 one. And it's the same nonsense, right? And the results achieved, not applicable. We didn't do anything. Don't worry about it. For almost $1 million, we didn't do anything there. Don't worry about it. Don't ask questions. We're not interested in answering questions, right? Here is another one that this is 2001 to 2011. This is $60 million for colleges and institutes Canada, and it's international assistance partnerships in all of these countries: Congo, Bangladesh, Bolivia, Zimbabwe, Congo, Democratic Republic, and it's got like 1.8%, 20.26%, 0.79%, and so on and so forth. Malawi, Niambria, Cameroon, Madagascar, and so on and so forth. South Africa, Costa Rica. South Africa. What are we funding in South Africa? Are we funding anti-white songs? Senegal, Honduras, Ivory Coast, so on and so forth, right? And sector, education level, unspecific teacher training, vocational training, health and policy administration management, basic health care, basic nutrition, health education, health personnel development, agricultural education, and then policy marker. It's all the same ones I read before: gender equality, environmental sustainability, participatory development, and good governance, trade development, biodiversity. It's like they're ticking boxes. Expected results. We don't expect any results. NA is the box filled in there. And the results achieved as of the end of the project include 83 projects in 41 countries were supported, 1,782 local trainers and teachers, administrators, 908 female, 802 male, improved their skills in competency-based teaching approaches and methods. Over 20,000 students and community members benefited from training programs. I'd like to see the receipts on this. Did somebody have AI write this up, or like, I don't know. Who knows, right? At this point in time, you could write a nice story about who benefited. I'd like to see like the names of the people who benefited, where they worked, where they were before, where they went to. You know, I'm sure they've got records of all of that, right? Sure they do. Wink. So it seems like a grift. It seems like the Doge grift, right? And what are you guys achieving? Oh, you know, a big long list of nonsense for $1 million in foreign countries. Nope, I don't think so, right? Here is Colin, and this is Donald Trump says the IRS is gearing up to fire thousands of federal workers. This is Donald Trump talking about the IRS, and here we go.
Mr. President, Doge workers arrived today, Gavin Clagger and others arrived today at the IRS. Do you expect to close the IRS, or what are you expecting?
No, I don't expect it, but I think that the Internal Revenue Service will be looked at like everybody else. Just about everybody's going to be looked at. So it's they're doing a hell of a job. It's an amazing job they're doing. And you know, that force is building. I call it the force of super geniuses, but it's building. And you know, they go up and they talk to some of the people about certain deals, and the people get all tongue-tied. They can't talk because these people get it. They're very smart people. We need smart people. Yes.
The force of super geniuses. I mean, if I didn't already have a title, goodness me, that had more to do with Canada. I think that that's funny. I think that Donald Trump could productize Dodge and say, hey, the United Kingdom, hey, Canada, do you want me to come and fix your government? I've said this before. It's surprising to me that he hasn't thought of it yet. Lindsay says, hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful